Chapter 744, Nightfall, Mark. Above Tokyo. In the night that devoured the sky, a figure stepped onto the rolling clouds, walking slowly. The black trench coat rustled in the wild wind, and beneath the menacing Sun Wukong mask, a pair of eyes shone like molten metal, coldly gazing down at the bustling city below. 5 long knives, jet black, light purple, deep blue, pale gray, and snow white, hung at his waist, mysterious and eerie. He was like the king of the night, standing atop the clouds, ruling over Tokyo. Under the aura of God's concealment, Lin Chia unleashed. The night sky descends. He had learned from the essence of the night to its fullest. The night shroud spread out from his black trench coat, enveloping the entire sky above Tokyo. In an instant, day turned to night. This sudden darkness caused everyone in Tokyo to look up in confusion, pointing at the night sky with their hands, their eyes filled with bewilderment and curiosity. Why did it suddenly get dark in broad daylight? Is it going to rain? Moments later, in the pitch-black city of Tokyo, the streetlights flickered on like stars scattered across the earth. The neon lights in blue and purple at the tops of the shops on both sides of the street began to twinkle, illuminating the various signs, creating a dazzling and beautiful dreamlike realm that lit up a corner of the night. Under the streetlights and neon, people felt a slight sense of reassurance. But they did not know what kind of evil and bloodshed lurked behind this dreamlike luxury of lights. In the International Financial Building, the first Oracle envoy, Disaster of Hell, stood by the window staring at the pitch-black night above, his expression suddenly turning grave. "That is an intruder?" Disease Disaster walked over to him, frowning as he spoke. "It seems that the third team also discovered an intruder in Akihabara just now. Should we let them continue the pursuit?" Disaster of Hell pondered for a moment and shook his head. "Don't pursue for now, something feels off. Call them all back." Under the night sky, Lin Chia stepped onto the somersault cloud, and directly arrived at the top of the silver disk floating above Tokyo, where a boy in a white lab coat carrying a black coffin and a girl in a white dress floating beside him had been waiting for a long time. Seeing Lin Chia arrive on the clouds, and Qingyu's lips curled into a smile. "You finally made it, Chia." "Yeah." Lin Chia smiled as he waved away the clouds and walked up to the two of them. "Qingyu, Jiang Er, how have you been during this time?" "Very well." Jiang Er's voice came from the Bluetooth speaker at Qingyu's waist, and she smiled silently. "We managed to steal the Oracle envoys home and took all their technological research results." Lin Chia gave the two a thumbs up. "Impressive, as expected of you. We can catch up later when we get back." And Qingyu adjusted her glasses, her expression gradually becoming serious. "Now the other team members should be nearby in Tokyo. Jiang Er, call them and have them come to Pure Land immediately." "No need to be so troublesome." Lin Chia suddenly spoke. And Qingyu and Jiang Er looked at him in confusion. Lin Chia smiled slightly, extending his hands to grasp the snow-white and jet-black long knives at his waist. White slash, black rope. Clay. The two cursed blades were drawn simultaneously. Lin Chia held the white knife in one hand and the black knife in the other, raising them towards the heavy clouds in the night sky, and in an instant he slashed out with both knives. The dual knives returned to their sheaths. At the same time, above Pure Land, the heavy clouds of the night sky were effortlessly sliced open, revealing a massive black arc. 2 straight white knife marks intersected to divide this arc, and the point where the 2 knife marks met was the center of the arc, which was also where Lin Chia stood. The 2 knife marks cut through the darkness. This was the unique mark of the Nightfall team. "I see." And Qingyu smiled upon seeing this pattern. "This will indeed speed things up." She turned to Lin Chia and asked seriously, "Shall we begin now?" "Let's start." Lin Chia stood above Pure Land, looking down at the neon city shrouded in darkness. The Oracle envoys are too scattered and hiding very discreetly. We must use some means to force them to reveal themselves. Is everything ready? "Ready." Jiang Er waved her hand gently, and a drone equipped with a camera began to hover above the silver disk. Lin Chia nodded and took a deep breath. "Let's start the connection." On the outskirts of Tokyo, the Kazamatsuri family's convoy sped along the road. Chao Yuan rolled down the car window and glanced at the pitch-black night above, his brow slightly furrowing. "Have Chia and the others already arrived?" Can we go any faster? Chow Yuan said to the driver in Japanese. Unfortunately, we can't. The Kazamatsuri family's driver replied helplessly. It seems there was a large-scale battle up ahead and the entire road is blocked. We can't get through. Chow Yuan, holding his knife, hesitated for a moment before directly opening the door and stepping out of the car. Seeing this, Yuzuna also opened the door and got out. Chow Yuan, do you know where Brother Chier is? She asked curiously. Chow Yuan was taken aback. He hesitated for a moment, just about to say something when the heavy clouds above Pure Land suddenly flashed with two knife lights, followed by a massive pattern formed by overlapping times and appearing before everyone's eyes. That is, Chow Yuan's expression suddenly became excited. There. Chow Yuan pointed at the intersection of the two straight knife lights, speaking firmly, I want to go directly above Pure Land. That place, Yuzuna nodded thoughtfully. She extended her hand, grasping the handle of the 1,000 cranes, knife at her waist, and said to Chow Yuan, I can use paper cranes to turn into clouds and carry you over, but it can only hold one person. I might only be able to take you this far. That's enough. Chow Yuan nodded firmly. Thank you. No need to thank me. Yuzuna smiled slightly at Chow Yuan. You must win. The white long knife was drawn from its paper sheath, and countless paper cranes emerged around Yuzuna, surrounding Chow Yuan and lifting him off the ground, flying straight towards the silver disc in the sky. In the park, Shin Qingzhu saw the enormous pattern appearing in the sky, and his pupils suddenly constricted. He abruptly stood up from the bench, staring intently in that direction, his gaze burning with intensity. Is it over there? Shin Qingzhu furrowed his brow. How do I get there? Just as Shin Qingzhu was in a dilemma between heaven and earth, black and white energies suddenly flickered, and a plump figure stepped out of the void, appearing beside him. Shugu. The chubby figure looked at Shin Qingzhu and grinned. Want a ride? Chapter 745. We are the blasphemers. Uncle Kayasuk watched as the figures of the two people disappeared from sight, a look of shock appearing in his eyes. The fat guy just now. Uncle Kayasuk lowered his head to look at the trembling Mizuki at his waist, his brow slightly furrowing. As the wielder of Mizuki, he could clearly sense that the Hozu blade was in fear. The blade's spirit Shaojin was also afraid. Clearly, that fat guy had done nothing but glance over here lightly before leaving, yet Mizuki nearly slipped from his grasp and fell into the fat guy's hands. Fortunately, the other party seemed to have no intention of taking his sword. They simply went directly to the Pure Land with Shin Qingzhu. What kind of monster is that? Uncle Kayasuk muttered to himself. Just as he was puzzled, the enormous electronic map hanging in the center of the park suddenly flickered, turning into a chaotic, snowy static screen. People strolling in the park stopped in confusion, looking up at the giant electronic screen. Uncle Kayasuk hadn't paid much attention to this, but as he turned his head he suddenly realized that not only was the display in the park center affected, but all electronic screens connected to the network throughout Tokyo had turned into snowy static. The giant advertisement screens in shopping malls, the electronic maps at intersections, the televisions hanging at store entrances, the train schedule displays at stations, and even people's phones, tablets, and computers, all electronic screens had transformed into the static of an old television. Under the pitch-black night sky, countless screens emitted a pale and eerie glow. People stood on the streets at a loss for what to do. The pale snowflakes on the millions of screens suddenly vanished. In their place was an image that no one had expected. It was beneath the night sky, high above. A futuristic silver flying disc hovered silently over the neon-lit Tokyo, and on that silver disc stood three figures. One wore a fierce Sun Wukong mask, dressed in a black trench coat, with 5 long swords hanging at his waist. One wore a delicate and indifferent Tang Xing mask, dressed in a white scientific robe, carrying a strange black coffin on his back. One wore a pale, faceless mask, draped in a white dress, floating in the air like a ghost. The strong winds at high altitude whipped their garments around. Beneath them lay the sacred ground of Japan's human circle, the supreme place symbolizing life and divine authority, the Pure Land. And they stood upon the Pure Land above the supreme. The moment these three figures appeared on all the screens, people widened their eyes, filled with disbelief. Who are they? How dare they stand above the Pure Land? This is disrespect to the divine. All households, streets, and every place with people erupted in chaos, pointing at the three figures on the screen and discussing fervently. At that moment, in the image, the figure wearing the Sun Wukong mask slowly spoke. Greetings, supporters of divine authority. Are the God Defilers. International Financial Building. Just as the disaster of soldiers and the disaster of insects returned to the top floor, they saw the scene playing on the television, their pupils suddenly constricting. Who are they? Insect Disaster frowned at Prison Disaster. The one wearing the monkey mask seems to be just a hunting sparrow level wanted criminal, but the other man and woman are invaders of the Pure Land. Disease Disaster's eyes flickered as he instantly retrieved information on the three individuals in the image. Those two took over the Pure Land and released Yuzuriha Takashi? Insect Disaster spoke coldly. If they had stayed hidden within the Pure Land's automated defense system, we would have had no way to deal with them. But they actually dared to step out of the defense system and stand above the Pure Land. Are they looking for death? No, they are not looking for death. Prison Disaster, who had been silent, suddenly spoke. They are declaring war on us. Declaring war? Disease Disaster glanced at the screen. Just based on them? If I'm not mistaken, all three of them standing up there are invaders from the outside. Prison Disaster continued. They want to force us to act in this way. Once we engage, it won't just be a simple battle between two sides. In this live broadcast environment, in the eyes of all citizens, this is a battle between divine messengers and God defilers. If we lose, the image of the divine being omnipotent in their hearts will be severely undermined, and the supreme status of the divine messengers will be threatened, shaking the very foundation of divine authority in the entire country. They want to overturn this country with their own strength. After hearing Prison Disaster's analysis, the other three divine messengers' expressions turned grave. Since that's the case, shouldn't we just win? Disease Disaster said lightly, the strength of these three isn't strong. Any one of us could suppress them all. It's not that simple. Soldier Disaster suddenly interrupted, pointing at Lin Chia in the image. Did you see the 5 hose blades at his waist? Just those 5 blades are extremely troublesome. Leave him to me. Prison Disaster said calmly. He turned away, shifting his gaze from the television screen to the silver disc in the sky not far away, his eyes narrowing slightly. Since they declared war using divine authority, we have no choice but to engage. However, they cannot win. Boom. The towering building at the top exploded, and 4 figures shot up into the sky, charging straight toward the Pure Land. Hokkaido. Amaya Seiwi stepped out of the club, looking at the 3 figures appearing on the giant screen across the street, his eyes narrowing slightly. The live broadcast range transmitted by Jiang Air's Forbidden Void was not limited to Tokyo, but encompassed the entire human circle. At this moment, just like in other corners of the human circle, large crowds gathered in front of electronic screens, pointing and discussing the images on the screens. Behind Amaya Seiwi, members of the Black Kill group also stepped out, staring in astonishment at the figure on the screen. God defilers, huh? Amaya Seiwi murmured. At that moment, he suddenly recalled the words Lin Chia had said before leaving. To help you clear the last obstacle. The last obstacle was the divine authority of this country. They wanted to overturn divine authority. Amaya Seiwi's eyes brightened. In the image, Lin Chia continued. The gods you pray to day and night have abandoned you, and the so-called divine messengers are merely worms trampling on the masses, using the guise of the divine to satisfy their endless greed. And beneath our feet lies their extreme evil lair. As his voice fell, he extended his hand, lightly pointing at the 4 figures rushing toward them from afar. He sneered. Look, the worms have returned. Chapter 746. Request to return to the team. How could the Oracle Envoy be called a maggot? Upon hearing this title, everyone watching the screen was stunned into silence. Yet for some reason there was no anger in their hearts, only an inexplicable fear. If it were someone truly revered, being insulted to their face as a maggot would surely provoke a furious rebuttal from many, or even lead to direct confrontation or counter-insults. But at this moment, those standing before the screen could not summon even a shred of anger. They were simply afraid. Afraid that the blasphemer's words would be heard by the Oracle Envoy, who would then become enraged, killing them all while also implicating themselves. Ultimately, this was due to the methods the Oracle Envoy used to manage these people, which were largely based on fear and deception. Claiming to be the messenger of the divine, they instilled the notion of supreme authority in the hearts of the masses through their immense power and status, thereby controlling their thoughts and actions. It was akin to the tyrants of ancient times. While their oppressive rule could command the kneeling of all, how many among them truly revered the tyrant? Everyone's heart sank. Tokyo. In the pitch-black night sky, raindrops fell one by one. The raindrops splashed against the surface of a silver disk, turning into fine droplets that burst forth. In the reflection on the water's surface, 4 figures flashed across the sky, stepping onto the pure land. 4 figures in robes of different colors danced in the wind. The Oracle Envoy had arrived. On the other side of the silver disk, 3 masked figures stood in the rain, confronting them from a distance. Maggots. The black-robed figure, the harbinger of calamity, calmly gazed at Lin Chia. Only those who can be easily crushed are insects. Do you 3 little bugs dare to declare war on the divine? Divine. Lin Chia sneered. You think you are worthy to represent the divine? We are the Oracle Envoys, so we naturally can represent the divine. Why don't you call out to them and see if they respond? Upon hearing this, the harbinger's expression immediately turned cold. It seemed these invaders had completely grasped the information within the Pure Land, and were aware of the disappearance of the gods from Takamagara. They must die. A glint of murderous intent flickered in the harbinger's eyes. Just 3 ants, truly seeking death. Boom. The 4 Oracle Envoys surged forward, with the white-robed envoy of war moving the fastest, like a white shadow slicing through the air, reaching Lin Chia and his companions in the blink of an eye. Lin Chia narrowed his eyes, his hand instantly resting on the hilt of his sword, but then he seemed to sense something, raising an eyebrow. The long sword at his waist remained sheathed. The corners of his mouth curled slightly. At the same time, above the Pure Land, a helicopter roared across the sky. The rotor blades buzzed in the night air as a figure in blue robes, holding a black box, opened the helicopter door and gracefully leaped down from the sky. The fierce wind swept through, and the figure's black hair danced wildly in the night sky, streaking across like a shooting star. Boom. A dull thud echoed across the surface of the Pure Land. The blade light from the Envoy of War surged at his fingertips, about to touch Lin Chia's body when a figure clad in deep blue robes crashed heavily onto the silver disk, landing right in front of him. A pale hand grasped the blade light of the Envoy of War with bare hands. Boom. A thunderous explosion erupted from the envoy's fingertips, and the fierce blade light shot out wildly, but no matter how it sliced, it could not harm the owner of that pale hand in the slightest. With just you, do you think you can hurt him? Jia Lan gripped the envoy's fingertips with one hand, her eyes narrowing slightly. Her right leg kicked out like lightning, carrying terrifying kinetic energy, crashing into the envoy's chest. He was immediately sent flying, awkwardly flipping half a turn in the air before stabilizing himself on the silver disk. He looked at Jia Lan with shock and confusion in his eyes. How could this be possible? He was the Envoy of War. His blade light infused with power should be able to cut through anything except for the Hozu blade. How did this girl manage to catch this blow barehanded and remain unscathed? Under the night sky, after sending the Envoy of War flying, the girl in blue turned back and smiled at Lin Chia. Jia Lan from the Nightfall Squad requesting to return to the team. Jia Lan had flown from Hokkaido to Tokyo by plane. Although she had set out earlier than Lin Chia, the speed of the cloud surfing was unmatched by planes, but she still arrived on time. Lin Chia looked at her and smiled. Welcome back to the team. On the opposite side, the harbinger frowned at the unscathed Jia Lan in blue robes, a dark circle of light flickering in his eyes. Analyzing target energy fluctuations. Energy threshold exceeds the specified limit. Analysis failed. Analyzing target life signs. No changes in life signs detected. No matching subjects found in the biological gene database. Analysis failed. Unable to extract any information from the target. The harbinger's expression grew increasingly grim. Even the divine-level analytical ability of Hanazu could not see through the strength of the girl in blue, and they couldn't even determine if she was human. What kind of monster was this? Now the number of people on Lin Chia's side had increased from 3 to 4, but this still posed no threat to the Oracle envoys, as apart from the girl in blue, the strength of the others could be easily seen through. Of course, Lin Chia, who possessed 5 Hose blades, posed a threat comparable to that of the girl in blue. Ding! As the 4 Oracle envoys were about to strike, a clear bird call rang out from the distant sky. Everyone on the Pure Land turned to look, only to see a white crane silhouette flapping its wings beneath the dark clouds, racing towards them like a flash of white lightning. It was a massive crane king formed from countless small paper cranes. And atop this white crane king, a black figure stood steadily, holding a straight sword with eyes that were incredibly sharp. That's... And Qingyu's eyes widened in surprise as she recognized the figure. Chao Yuan? How did he arrive on a paper crane? That's Yuzina's 1,000 cranes, Lin Chia replied with a smile. Looks like this little girl has become quite impressive. The white crane carrying Chao Yuan flew to the exact center of the Pure Land, gently flapping its wings in the rain, causing thousands of paper cranes to disintegrate from its body, swirling around Chao Yuan like a cloud of paper, gracefully descending from the sky. Among the flock of paper cranes, Chao Yuan landed on the silver disc. It's you. The 4 Oracle envoys' pupils suddenly constricted upon seeing Chao Yuan, as if recalling some unpleasant memories, their faces turning extremely grim. How did he get out? Right, he is also an invader, part of the same group as these people before them. This monster has been released again. This is going to be troublesome. Chapter 747. Our name is... Chao Yuan's gaze swept over the 4 Oracle envoys before him, their faces ashen like earth, and calmly placed his palm on the hilt of his straight sword. With a firm grip, the straight sword was drawn. Clay. As the sword was unsheathed, an endless black malevolent aura ignited in Chao Yuan's eyes, enveloping his entire body in an instant. The residual malevolent energy transformed into a slowly burning, pulsating black royal robe, draped behind him. Fierce, brutal, yet overwhelmingly imposing. In the rain, he held the sword in his right hand, clad in the malevolent royal robe, his eyes crimson like blood. A cold smile curled at the corners of his mouth, resembling a restrained sneer, but this so-called restraint did not bring comfort. Instead, it was even more chilling. The moment the others sensed this aura, everyone on the silver flying disc felt a shiver in their hearts. The 4 Oracle envoys were reminded of the nightmare from 2 years ago when the demonized Chao Yuan had pressed them to the ground. Although the current aura of Chao Yuan was much weaker than it had been then, the psychological shadow remained. Lin Chia and the others trembled because they realized the aura emanating from Chao Yuan was of infinite level. He had actually reached infinite? Among the crowd, only Qingyu was not surprised by this. He gazed at the malevolent energy soaring into the sky, watching Chao Yuan approach calmly with his sword, adjusting his glasses. 2 years ago, Chao Yuan had been shattered by divine punishment. It should have been the Black King within him that helped him reconstruct his body and resurrect him. His internal realm's bottleneck must have been shattered as well. During the 2 years that followed, he had been corroded by the bone corrosion lock, and the clash of malevolent energy and the bone corrosion lock's power over 2 years was also a form of cultivation for him. Given the hardships and trials Chao Yuan had endured, it was only natural for him to enter the infinite realm. The dense rain poured down on the frenzied Chao Yuan, and before it could touch his body, it was directly vaporized by the malevolent flames. His crimson eyes shifted from the 4 Oracle envoys to Lin Chia. He slowly opened his mouth, his expression eerily terrifying, and rasped. Team Nightfall's Chao Yuan requests to return to the team. Lin Chia was taken aback. He hadn't expected that even in a frenzied state Chao Yuan could still speak. It seemed that during this time his control over the forbidden ruins within him had reached a new level. Just as he was about to respond, a familiar voice suddenly echoed from afar. Such an exciting scene, how could it be without me? Hearing this voice, Lin Chia's pupils constricted. He turned his head sharply, a glimmer of joy appearing in his eyes. This voice, he has awakened. A massive black and white taiji diagram burst forth from the void, and a slightly plump figure flickered to the center of the taiji, hands clasped behind his back. Beneath the silly smiling Zhu Beiji mask, the corners of his mouth couldn't help but rise. He extended his hand and casually pointed downward. All weapons disarm. Swish, 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 swish. Below the Pure Land, within a 5-kilometer radius of Tokyo, all weapons soared into the sky. The firearms stored in the Tokyo police station, the weapons hidden by the Honchuan and Kazamatsuri families, and the artillery from abandoned military bases. Knives, swords, guns, gunpowder, cannons. Thousands upon thousands, like a dense black wave, rolled up from the neon-lit city into the sky, rushing toward the center of the massive Taiji diagram suspended in the air. At the same time, Lin Chia's pocket trembled and the free space flew out. One by one, shimmering forbidden items poured out from the free space, swirling around the slightly plump figure like ribbons, dazzling and mesmerizing. That figure stood with hands behind his back, stepping on the Taiji diagram, surrounded by a sky full of forbidden items. Under the night sky behind him, countless guns floated, aimed at the 4 Oracle envoys, all loaded, the synchronized sound rumbling like thunder in the night sky. He smiled and spoke. Team Nightfalls by Li Pangpang, requests to return to the team. By Li Pangpang. Also at the infinite level. Beside him, a figure draped in a flowing cloud Haori appeared. It was a man wearing a white fox mask with white and black rings on his right middle and ring fingers. Beneath the mask he glanced at Lin Chia with a complex expression, and after a moment of silence he bitterly smiled. Team Nightfall's Shin Qingzhu, requests to return to the team. Nearby, the 4 Oracle envoys looked at the suddenly increased number of figures around them, falling into confusion. How? Did it suddenly become 7 people? Lin Chia's gaze swept over Chao Yuan by Li Pangpang and Shin Qingzhu, and beneath the Sun Wukong mask his eyes shone brighter than ever. He opened his mouth, seemingly wanting to say something. But in the end, all his words condensed into a simple 4-character phrase. Welcome, back to the team. The pitch-black night shrouded the sky, and just below the mark etched in the clouds, 7 figures who had been apart for years reunited once more. They were here because of this night. They were here because they were the Nightfall. When the night descended, no matter where they were in the world, they would ultimately arrive beneath this night, standing beside each other. Just as they had sworn years ago in the mist. As long as I am beneath this night, those I cherish shall be safe. Those I oppose shall be annihilated. I want our fate to be in our hands. I want us to sweep through everything. 7 figures, 7 masks. Silently standing under the night sky, amidst the rain, among all beings. They looked at each other, smiles appearing at the corners of their mouths simultaneously. You all? The black-robed disaster looked around at the 7 people, confusion evident in his eyes. Who are you? Where do you come from? How did you appear? Lin Chia's gaze fell on the disaster. Beneath the mask his smile gradually faded. He slowly stepped forward, his eyes coldly fixed on the disaster, speaking each word deliberately. We are the 5th special team of the Great Xia Night Watchers. We are the blasphemers. We are the heretics. Our name is Nightfall. He grasped the black rope and duo-e sword hilt at his waist, drawing both simultaneously. 2 beams of light, one black and one purple, shot out, piercing into the pure land below. The torrential rain poured down. In the dense rain, Lin Chia held both swords, his eyes burning like a golden furnace. He spoke softly. Today, the Great Xia Nightfall team declares war on the Pure Land, divine authority. Crack. The moment the duo-e sword touched the surface of the silver flying disc, a flash of purple light flickered, followed by a series of grotesque cracks appearing on the surface of the Pure Land. Under the surge of disaster power, the entire Pure Land trembled violently. Chapter 748. Everyone Extreme Evil. Wuduo is the embodiment of disaster. Anything struck by the blade will be ensnared by calamity, becoming exceedingly unfortunate. And now what it has struck is the very symbol of divine authority for the entire human circle, the supreme origin of life, Pure Land. At this moment, Pure Land is like an earthquake crazily tearing and twisting. With the automatic defense system shut down by Qingyu, Pure Land cannot withstand the power of disaster contained in this blade. It will automatically collapse without any external force acting upon it. Of course this takes time. But that is under the condition of not using the second blade, the Katsun. In Lin Chia's left hand, A streak of pitch-black light swept across the surface of black rope. Under the night sky, an enormous projection of a blade appeared, carrying terrifying power, suddenly stabbing down towards the center of the silver disc suspended in the sky. Under the influence of the power of disaster, when the blade touched the surface of Pure Land, it was as if it had struck tofu, easily sinking into it, piercing through the entire Pure Land from the center. If it weren't for the power of disaster from Wutuo, the best effect Lin Jie could achieve with this strike would be to slice off a corner of Pure Land, just like Yuji Heijia did at that time. But now, under the influence of the power of disaster, Pure Land has become extremely fragile. Any external force could directly destroy it. And black rope undoubtedly possesses such terrifying lethality. One strike, piercing through Pure Land. But Lin Jie did not stop there. He gripped the hilt of black rope and forcefully swung it down. The blade projection that had pierced through Pure Land directly tore apart the silver disc with Lin Jie's movement. Explosions and flames erupted at the point of the blade's cut, and amidst the booming sounds, Pure Land was being cleaved in two. The fragments of Pure Land that were severed transformed into fireballs, crashing down towards the neon city below like meteors. Do you dare? The black-robed harbinger of calamity saw that half of Pure Land had already been destroyed by Lin Jie and roared, his eyes bloodshot. For them, Pure Land is the crystallization of their company's wisdom, the foundation upon which they became oracles, and the supreme weapon used to intimidate the entire human circle. What Lin Jie is doing is akin to cutting the lives of their oracles. Beside him, the harbinger of war's eyes were cold as ice. Possessing the potential for massive casualties, shaking the foundations of society, challenging divine authority, your evil is beyond redemption, utterly unforgivable. Upon hearing this, Lin Jie couldn't help but laugh. Evil? Perhaps in the eyes of all beings, it is indeed so. But if maggots like you can be called good, then we would rather be the evil that is a foot taller than the devil. This country has rotted. The beings here are beyond saving and we do not care about their views. We will stand at the forefront of public scorn, laughing grotesquely, tearing apart your false lofty facade. Extreme evil, what of it? As his words fell, Lin Jie turned to the ghostly girl in a white dress beside him and laughed. Jiang Er. Here. Let this group of ignorant bumpkins see what true, extreme evil is. Received. Jiang Er floated in the air, gently raising her hands, a mysterious magnetic field directly connecting with all surrounding electronic devices, wildly spreading through wireless communication to the outside world. Snap. Within the Pure Land beneath their feet, the equipment supplying electricity to the entire nation suddenly erupted with blinding sparks. Under the disturbance of the magnetic field, all lighting devices were precisely shut down. Street lights, neon signs flickering at shop entrances, screens on skyscrapers, the lights of countless homes within buildings. All extinguished. The entire Japan was cut off from the supply of light and electricity. Under the shroud of night, Tokyo, having lost electronic illumination, fell into absolute darkness. In the darkness, countless terrified screams echoed in the sky. At that moment, the large electronic screens originally used to broadcast the blasphemous battle, along with all televisions, computers and mobile devices, suddenly switched their displays. The black screens flickered with terrifying red light. Scarlet wanted posters appeared on all screens. There were a total of 7. One featured a man wearing a Sun Wukong mask, clad in a black trench coat, with 5 Katsun blades hanging at his waist, his eyes burning like torches, standing in the rain like a king overlooking all beings. One depicted a fat man wearing a Ju Beiji mask, standing on a black and white Taiji Bagua diagram, hands behind his back, surrounded by dazzling treasures, with an endless array of gun barrels and cannons behind him. One showed a man wearing a Sha monk mask, surrounded by swirling black malevolent flames, holding a straight blade in his right hand, his scarlet eyes fierce and terrifying, making anyone who glanced at him feel a chill. One was a girl wearing a red boy mask, her deep blue robe billowing in the wind, holding a golden spear that stood firm like a rock under the night sky. One depicted a frail youth wearing a Tang Sing mask, carrying a black coffin on his back, his eyes emitting a faint gray hue, seemingly harmless, yet anyone who met his gaze would inexplicably feel a chill at the nape of their neck. One featured a man draped in a flowing cloud haori, wearing 2 rings on his right hand, his eyes slightly narrowed, with a bewitching white fox mask that seemed to both cry and laugh. And the last was a ghostly girl floating in mid-air, wearing a faceless mask, her hands gently raised as if controlling something, exuding an indescribable eeriness. Bright red warning bands circled around their photos, constantly flashing with the ominous words "evil person" written in a sharp script across the warning bands, marking them with an incredibly conspicuous label. Above each wanted poster were 2 grotesque, protruding blood-red characters. Extreme evil. No bounty amount, no descriptions. These wanted posters didn't even have names. They did not need names. They were merely the embodiment of extreme evil. In the pitch-black city, only these 7 bright red wanted posters rolled across countless electronic screens. Silence, deathly stillness and eeriness. Under the torrential rain, even the rivers of rainwater flowing down the streets were dyed blood-red by the scarlet glow of these wanted posters. Within Tokyo, everyone hid indoors watching the city stained by the blood-red wanted posters, trembling uncontrollably. This scene, these 7 wanted posters, would undoubtedly be deeply etched in the hearts of every Tokyo citizen. After rolling for a long time, the 7 wanted posters suddenly caused all screens to plunge back into darkness. Then, in the dead silence of the dark city, on those screens, 2 large Chinese characters written in blood slowly emerged. Nightfall. Or Extreme Evil. Chapter 749. Confronting the Oracle Envoy. Hokkaido. Knight and Wei Dong stood before a massive screen, watching the 7 wanted posters for the Extreme Evil scrolling across it, along with live footage of 7 figures standing tall above the Pure Land, lost in a daze. Wei Dong opened his mouth and was stunned for a long time, unable to utter a single word. Weren't you supposed to be going back to your country? How could you suddenly decide to breach the Pure Land? Moreover, this spectacle is too grand. A live broadcast covering the entire territory of Japan. Are you trying to completely ruin the reputation of the Oracle Envoys? Knight gazed at the 7 figures on the screen, and after a moment he came to his senses and couldn't help but exclaim. The Great Xia, another top-tier team is about to emerge. Inside the room, Wu Xiangnan looked at the 7 figures standing in the rain on the advertisement screen atop the opposite building, frozen like stone sculptures, a look of nostalgia appearing in his eyes. Once he too had companions standing shoulder to shoulder with him. They had also stood at the pinnacle of the world, looking down upon all living beings. He slowly reached out, gripping the badge hanging on his chest, feeling the heat and intensity contained within it. Blue rain. Unknowingly, Wu Xiangnan's hands clenched tightly. A resolute look flashed in his eyes. Susanoo. Wu Xiangnan gazed at the distant sky, murmuring, I will definitely find Takamagara. And then, I will personally kill you. Tokyo. Yuzai looked down at the city beneath the Pure Land, now engulfed in darkness, his pupils slightly constricting. You cut off the power supply? He suddenly turned to Lin Chia. To be precise, I cut off the unnecessary parts. Jiang Er's voice came from the Bluetooth speaker. Hospitals, water, electricity, and the most basic lighting capabilities remain, but all the neon lights and meaningless electrical devices on the streets have been shut down. The country's power consumption has been reduced by approximately 92%. Since all the energy consumed in this country is fueled by the souls of the deceased, shutting down 92% of the electrical devices can save a massive number of souls. Lin Chia spoke calmly. Perhaps the people in the city will see us as a disaster, as demons who take away light and noise, bringing endless night, but one day they will realize that what we are doing is the true salvation. Goodness or evil, justice resides in our hearts. Justice. Yuzai growled angrily. Here we are justice. Boom. A loud explosion echoed as the 4 Oracle Envoys figures swept through the crumbling Pure Land, charging straight toward Lin Chia and the others. Nightfall, team. Lin Chia calmly looked at the 4 aggressive figures and said flatly, Prepare for battle. Whoosh. Among the 7, a figure enveloped in dark, malevolent flames was the first to swiftly draw his weapon. Madman Chao Yuan's malevolence surged, his crimson eyes filled with an insatiable thirst for blood and slaughter. He had suppressed his inner violence and ferocity for so long that he could no longer hold back. At this moment, hearing Lin Chia issue the battle command, he was the first to charge out. Leading the 4 oracle envoys was a figure in a white robe, Bing Zai. The black and white figures collided first. The blade light of Bing Zai gathered in his hand, meeting the rushing madman Chao Yuan. His palm struck the straight blade with lightning speed, and the destructive blade light surged in, causing the straight blade to tremble violently. A sound like a sparrow's chirp echoed in the air as the straight blade and Bing Zai's palm created dazzling sparks, but the straight blade did not break. Bing Zai was taken aback. "You fool!" Madman Chao Yuan sneered. "The Night Watchman's star blade cannot be broken." Song. Madman Chao Yuan gripped the blade with both hands, the malevolent flames around him converging onto the straight blade. With a sudden force, a thick, menacing black blade light pierced through the heavens and the earth. Bing Zai's palm was cut, leaving a bloody mark. Under the terrifying force, he stumbled back several steps, his right arm slightly numb. How is this possible? Bing Zai looked at the seemingly ordinary straight blade in Chao Yuan's hand, confusion filling his eyes. Shouldn't only the Hose blade be able to withstand my strike? How can this blade without a blade soul not break? Otherwise, how could we say you are country bumpkins? Bai Li Pangpang chuckled, stepping forward. The black and white Taiji Bagua formation flickered with his body, directly shifting to Chao Yuan's side. He raised a finger, and the countless guns and cannons hovering behind him opened fire simultaneously. Thousands of gunfire erupted in the night sky, like a massive barrage of artillery shells pouring down on the oracle envoys, the dense sounds of gunfire echoing in the air like rolling waves, resonating in the pitch-black night. Among the 4 oracle envoys, the last one in black robes, Yuzai, felt the black circle in his left eye slightly constrict. A wall of darkness, like an indestructible massive umbrella, coalesced from the void, enveloping the pure land, and blocking all gunfire and artillery shells. Flames erupted in the darkness. Plague. Bing Zai stopped before everyone, speaking calmly as his robe suddenly billowed, dark green mist swirling out from him. This mist was a crystallization of the virus from Bing Zai's body, capable of invading a person's immune system in a very short time. While destroying immunity, it wildly planted pathogens within the body. Anyone who stayed in this mist for more than a minute would lose all mobility due to pain. After 3 minutes, no living being could walk out alive. The dark green mist rapidly rolled out. "This mist is toxic." Enchinyu's eyes flashed with a gray light, his gaze narrowing slightly. "Let me handle it." He pulled a small knife from his pocket and swiftly cut open his wrist, blood gushing out, with hints of purple light flickering within his blood. Song. The blood splattered in the air, ignited by Enchinyu in an instant, releasing a purple mist several times greater than the total amount of mist released by Bing Zai, engulfing the plague entirely. The dark green mist was sealed within Enchinyu's purple mist. Enchinyu's body had undergone countless dissections and modifications, gathering all the mystical traits he had encountered, no longer belonging to the realm of normal humans. Just the mystical traits related to poison within him numbered no less than 4. These 4 potent toxins flowed in Enchinyu's blood, allowing him to stand in the plague mist released by Bing Zai for hours without any issues. Using poison to combat poison. Chapter 750. The Fire Reappears. The plague disaster saw his virus trapped within the mist created by Enchinyu, and his expression darkened. Of course, as an oracle envoy, this mist was not his only means of attack. Disease has a myriad of ways to kill. He raised his arm about to do something, when a figure in a deep blue Han robe suddenly burst through the purple mist, landing steadily in front of him like a bolt of lightning. Jialan pressed a button on the black box, and a golden spear shot out from it, landing firmly in her hand. Holding the heavenly gate, her black hair fluttered slightly in the wind, and her eyes locked onto the plague disaster, filled with fighting spirit. "Come on," she said with a smile. "Let's see if your virus can kill me." Boom. She stomped her feet on the ground, her figure shooting out like lightning, the golden spear pointing at the plague disaster, unleashing a thick golden beam that pierced through the dead of night, illuminating a corner of the darkness. On the other side, the insect disaster looked at the chaotic battlefield, her brows slightly furrowed. With a gentle flick of her sleeve, Countless poisonous insects crawled out from her body, spreading rapidly around her. Just as they were about to mingle into the battlefield, a crisp sound of a snap echoed. Snap. The surrounding air was rapidly separated and compressed. A spark erupted. In the next moment, a blazing fireball burst forth like a burning sun, blooming in the night sky, instantly engulfing all the poisonous insects in a sea of flames. A figure stood calmly in the fire, raising his right hand and snapping his fingers again. Snap. A vacuum wall descended, and the flames around him were extinguished in an instant. Shen Qingzhu, draped in a flowing cloud cloak, stood in the only vacuum space of the fire scene, his gaze fixed coldly on the insect disaster. His surroundings were not entirely in a vacuum. Shen Qingzhu had already mastered the ability to precisely control and create air bubbles in the vacuum, allowing him to breathe while transmitting sound through the bubbles. He looked at the insect disaster and spoke. I couldn't kill you this morning, but now, I'm here to take your head. Pie head. The insect disaster scoffed. Just you? Of course, not. A smile appeared at the corner of Shen Qingzhu's mouth. A figure in a red robe fell from the sky like a meteor. Boom. The figure landed behind Shen Qingzhu, the red robe billowing in the wind. The insect disaster turned her head in confusion, only to see that familiar face, her pupils suddenly constricting. Fire disaster. How is this possible? Standing behind Shen Qingzhu was the original fourth Oracle envoy, Fire Disaster. After the battle in Osaka, Fire Disaster was personally slain by Lin Jie, and then the military disaster activated the reconstruction program in the Pure Land, creating a new body for Fire Disaster. With the scientific technology of the Pure Land, it was entirely possible to copy the soul consciousness of Fire Disaster from the cloud to a new body, thus completely reviving her. However, before Fire Disaster's body could be fully reconstructed, and Qingyu and Jiang Er seized control of the Pure Land. The Oracle Envoy had not even had time to upload the original consciousness of Fire Disaster. This meant that what remained in the Pure Land was a Fire Disaster without self-awareness, controlled solely by the automatic control system of Yuzuan. And Yuzuan had already been completely eliminated by Jiang Er. So now, controlling the fourth Oracle Envoy was Jiang Er. Surprised? Unexpected. The corners of Fire Disaster's mouth lifted slightly, a red light flickering in her left eye, Jiang Er's voice emanating from it. I really like this gift you left for me. I will use her fire to burn the Pure Land to the ground. As Jiang Er's voice faded, the controlled Fire Disaster slowly raised her hand, fiery lines of flame coalescing in the air, the temperature in the surrounding environment rising rapidly. The insect disaster's expression turned grim. The three Oracle envoys were entangled in a chaotic battle with 6 members of the Nightfall team. These Oracle envoys were strong enough to rival those at the Klein level, but on the Nightfall team, only Bailey Pangpang, Chao Yuan and Jialan possessed limitless level combat power. Although they were slightly weaker in rank, they could still hold their own against the Oracle envoys thanks to the power of the Forbidden Ruins and their teamwork. Moreover, with Jiang Er controlling the Oracle envoy Fire Disaster, they could independently contend with one Oracle envoy, making the situation extremely tense. Seeing this, the Prison Disaster furrowed his brows tightly. It should be noted that this battle was being live-streamed to the entire human circle. If the Oracle envoys failed to win or achieved a Pyrrhic victory, it would have a significant negative impact on the stability of their divine authority. They needed a crushing victory. The Prison Disaster took a deep breath, the black circle in his left eye contracting. He raised his arm, slowly reaching out towards the members of the Nightfall team. At that moment, his pupils suddenly constricted. From the void behind him, a man in a black trench coat emerged, wielding a snow-white long knife, moving like a ghost. What do you want to do? Lin Jie's voice echoed in the Prison Disaster's ears. The Prison Disaster shot forward like lightning, retracting his outstretched right hand. Black prison rods surged from the darkness beneath his feet, intertwining and forming a massive black sword that swung towards Lin Jie's body. Clang! A massive blade projection appeared simultaneously, colliding with the black sword, and an invisible shockwave erupted from the point of impact. The wind whipped through Lin Jie's black hair, his brilliant golden eyes burning like the blazing sun. The prison disaster broke out in a cold sweat. When did he come behind me? Why was there not a single trace, not a hint of energy fluctuation? The prison disaster steadied himself, his gaze fixed on the snow-white long knife in Lin Chia's hand, confusion deepening in his eyes. That is, the Hosen knife? When did such a knife appear among the 9 Hosen blades? You are the first oracle envoy who imprisoned Chao Yuan? Lin Chia, holding the knife Zhanbai, walked slowly towards the prison disaster, draped in a black trench coat. So what? The prison disaster replied coldly, the heretics of the divine should be executed. If it weren't for wanting to pry open his mouth to find a way to escape, he would already be a corpse. And perhaps you don't even know what kind of monster he is. Monster? Lin Chia narrowed his eyes slightly. My brother is not a monster. Even if he is, whoever dares to call him a monster, I will kill them. As Lin Chia's words fell, the Zhanbai in his hand sliced through the air like lightning, a streak of snow-white blade light ignoring the space flickering, shooting straight towards the prison disaster's head. Chapter 751. The Destruction of the Pure Land. The blade's radiance came too swiftly. For a blade that disregards space, speed holds no significance. Much like someone throwing a punch from 500 meters away, the opponent might not even see the punch coming before it lands squarely on their face. This was the situation that Yuzai faced now. He only saw Lin Chia raise the blade, and a flash of blade light appeared before him, slicing through his body in an instant, blood spraying forth. If it weren't for Yuzai's instinctive reaction as the blade's edge grazed his skin, forcing him to retreat slightly, that strike would have severed a good portion of his body. Yet even as he dodged the blow, a bloody and grotesque scar still manifested before him. He looked down at the wound on his chest, astonishment flickering in his eyes. This power, is this truly a Huajin blade? The 10th Huajin blade in the world. After its reconstruction, the sharpness of Zhanbai had reached a new level, capable of easily injuring even the modified steel body of a divine envoy. Lin Chia gripped the long knife, and through the hazy curtain of rain the blade light flickered. Yuzai's figure retreated frantically in the rain, but even so more and more wounds appeared on his body. Moments later the black circle in his left eye locked onto Lin Chia's figure, analyzing his movements at an astonishing speed. By predicting the point where the blade light would land after piercing through space, he managed to halt his downward spiral. Sin Luo Gui Yu. Yuzai dodged a slash, anger flashing in his eyes as he raised his palm toward Lin Chia's direction and pressed down forcefully. Terrifying black cages, grotesque and fearsome, coalesced from the void above, crashing down toward Lin Chia's body. The sharp bars of the cages resembled indestructible long spears, piercing the air with a buzzing roar. Lin Chia narrowed his eyes, his figure transforming into a flicker of night as he darted away. In the next moment the ground where he stood was encircled by these cage bars. Then a flash of black light swept through and the cage along with the air, light and dust trapped inside, vanished without a trace. Everything confined within this cage would be directly erased. After narrowly escaping with night flicker, Lin Chia's expression turned serious. Cages continued to stab down from the sky, and his figure flickered repeatedly, evading the forming cages. Even he knew that if trapped by these cages he would be instantly erased into nothingness. Spatial abilities, huh? Yuzai stood still, a cold glint flashing in his eyes. He raised both hands, forming a strange seal in front of him, and the black circle in his left eye deepened. Spatial ghost prison. Boom 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 boom. Around the Pure Land, 8 thick red pillars emerged, quietly hovering in the air, forming a large circle that confined the entire Pure Land within. The surface of the pillars emitted an eerie red glow, shrouded in mystery. At the moment these 8 thick pillars appeared, Lin Chia felt his movement stall and night flicker was forcibly interrupted. This space had been locked down by Yuzai. Lin Chia, who was about to flicker away, was abruptly halted, his figure suspended in mid-air. In that brief moment of stillness, several dark cages surrounded his body, sealing off most of his escape routes. Lin Chia's pupils constricted suddenly. Once the prison formed he would undoubtedly die. Without a moment's hesitation Lin Chia sheathed Zhanbai, simultaneously drawing Tian Yubeng with both hands, a purple and blue light erupting from the blades. struck down on two of the cage bars, the surging power of disaster directly damaging their structure, purple light swirling on the bars, creating numerous fine cracks. At the same time, the rainwater in the air began to swirl back, gathering on Yu Beng, transforming into a dragon of rainwater. With a swing of Lin Chia's arm, it surged forth, completely shattering the damaged cage bars and opening a gap. Lin Chia's figure transformed into a flicker of night, racing out through the opening. Even if you have 5 Huajin blades, you can only use 2 hands. Simultaneously activating 2 abilities is already your limit. Yu Zai sneered at this scene. You cannot win against me. 2 hands. Lin Chia emerged from the night, looking down at Yu Zai below, a smile creeping onto his lips. Are you sure? In the next moment, a dazzling magical array erupted from beneath Lin Chia's feet. Transformation magic. As the magical radiance faded, Lin Chia, now with 3 heads and 6 arms, dove down from the night sky, 5 arms gripping 5 Huajin blades, drawing them from their sheaths. Clang. 5 crisp ringing sounds blended together, the blade's sharpness revealed. Seeing this, Yu Zai's body trembled, disbelief flashing in his eyes. What are these 6 arms? Zhan Bai, Heisheng, Yu Beng, Du Yi, Xin Yin. Lin Chia wielded 5 Huajin blades, their blades reflecting the dark deep city below as he spiraled down from the night sky. 5 blade spirits flickered behind him, crashing heavily onto the pure land. Boom! His figure collided with Yu Zai, crashing through the nearly collapsing pure land, like a meteor, directly shattering half of the silver disc, which exploded in a blinding flash of fire. An enormous explosion erupted in the air, illuminating the dark Tokyo below as bright as day. The Pure Land was utterly destroyed. Burning fragments of the Pure Land fell toward the city, while members of the Nightfall team and the 4 divine envoys were caught in the chaos, plummeting near Tokyo Tower. As the Pure Land, the divine envoys and the 7 extreme evil-wanted criminals all fell back to the ground, the people near Tokyo Tower gasped in shock, frantically fleeing, thick smoke billowing up, and Tokyo was plunged into chaos. Bailey Pang Pang coughed as he stood up from the ground, glancing at the equally disheveled Bing Zai not far away, unable to help but click his tongue. Chia could have at least given a heads up when he went big. Now my hairstyle is all messed up. Bailey Pang Pang turned to the side. Old Chow, are you all right? Roar. I'm fine. Madman Chow Yuan completely ignored Bailey Pang Pang, climbing out of the deep pit created by his impact, the malevolent flames around him flaring up even more fiercely, seemingly a bit angered from the beating. Bing Zai was, after all, a divine envoy. Although he initially struggled against the indestructible nature of the straight blade, once he got serious, his strength was still above that of the frenzied Chow Yuan. Moreover, since Bing Zai's weapon was his own hands, the effectiveness of disarming everything was quite limited. Even if Bailey Pang Pang and Chow Yuan teamed up, they could only manage to fight to a standstill against him. Chapter 752, Spirit Tool Thunder Beast. Boom. The black malevolent energy surrounding the madman Chow Yuan erupted, shaking the air around him and rushing towards the soldier disaster in a white robe at supersonic speed. At the same time, Bailey Pang Pang reached out to grasp the floating blue ring, and the jade armor covered his body like a tide, a tattered cloak draped behind him, while necklaces, bracelets and ram horns, one by one forbidden items were donned on him as if they were free, radiating a brilliance of jewels. His figure was enveloped in the glow of forbidden items, following closely behind the madman Chow Yuan as they sped away. 3 figures collided. The blade of malevolent energy, the brilliance of forbidden items, and the invisible blade light of the soldier disaster crazily sliced through the ground around them, causing all buildings within a 5-kilometer radius to collapse under the shockwave. The entire battlefield had turned into a hellish scene of destruction. Amidst the flying debris, the soldier disaster pressed one hand against Chow Yuan's straight sword while the other hand grasped the ram horn thrust by Bailey Pang Pang. With a gentle flick of his fingertip, the fierce blade light surged into the ram horn, shattering it from the center. Bailey Pang Pang's forbidden item could not withstand the destructive power of the soldier disaster. After the ram horn shattered, Bailey Pang Pang quickly retreated, narrowly avoiding the soldier disaster's hand that was pressing towards his chest. Madman Chao Yuan took over by Li Pangpang's engagement with the soldier disaster, while Pang Pang stepped back to steady himself, looking down at the fragments of the ram horn in his palm, his eyes filled with heartache. "How dare you damage my forbidden item?" Bai Li Pangpang looked up at the soldier disaster, anger flashing in his eyes. "Do you really think I'm easy to bully?" As his words fell, it seemed he had made a decision, raising his gaze to the sky above. Beneath him, a massive black and white Taiji Bagua diagram unfolded, slowly rotating and emanating a mysterious rhythm. He raised his hand towards the pitch-black night sky and gently clenched it. "All things, surrender." Crack. A bolt of lightning streaked across the night sky, and amidst the deafening roar, there seemed to be a kind of growl echoing, as dense lightning suddenly surged from the clouds, forming a vortex of lightning that swirled above Tokyo. This sudden lightning vortex left several Oracle envoys stunned in place. From within they sensed a strangely familiar aura. That is. Hurricane winds danced wildly. Bai Li Pangpang grasped the sky with one hand, as if seizing something, and forcefully yanked it down. Amidst the rolling thunder, a thick black tail suddenly appeared, as if an invisible giant hand was pulling its tail, trying to drag it out from the thunder clouds. An angry beast's roar echoed in the clouds, and even though it exerted all its strength to prevent itself from falling, its body still uncontrollably slid down. The invisible giant hand pulling its tail was simply too fierce. Spirit Beast Thunder? The Calamity Envoy recognized that familiar tail, and his pupils suddenly constricted. The monster in the thundercloud, he had seen it before, back when the human circle was just established over 100 years ago. The gods of Takamagara had raised a deep blue beast resembling a cat and a tiger within the Yata mirror as a spirit beast, naming it Thunder Beast. After that time it seemed to have vanished, never to appear again. But the Oracle envoys knew very well that this Thunder Beast still lurked somewhere in this world, and whenever invaders used forbidden ruins, it would be drawn by their aura, gradually locking onto their targets, and then descending divine punishment. The Thunder Beast was the spirit of the Yata mirror and the master of that mysterious gaze that searched for Lin Chier and others whenever they used forbidden ruins. At the same time, the Thunder Beast was also the existence that the Oracle envoys feared the most. Although the Thunder Beast was a spirit, it still originated from Takamagara and belonged to the Japanese pantheon. The secretive actions the Oracle envoys had recently taken would surely lead to their doom if discovered by Takamagara. At this moment, this unassuming little chubby guy was actually pulling out the Spirit Beast Thunder with his bare hands. The Oracle envoys were left dumbfounded. "Destroying my forbidden item means you have to pay the price." Bai Li Pangpang extended his hand, pulling on the Thunder Beast's tail, and looked up at it. "Come and spit on me." Roar. The booming roar echoed through the thunder clouds, and anyone could hear the anger contained within that cry. The Thunder Beast in the clouds twisted its body, poking its massive, fierce head out of the clouds, its pitch-black eyes fixed intently on Bai Li Pangpang below. Its huge mouth opened and a chaotic surge of lightning swirled in front of it. As the lightning was compressed to its limit, it revealed a crimson hue, and a terrifying wave of energy descended upon the world. Beside him, Madman Chao Yuan's expression suddenly twisted in rage. That aura, he remembered it very clearly. 2 years ago in Hachimendai City, it was that crimson lightning pillar that had shattered his body into pieces. Once the crimson lightning gathered, it suddenly shot towards Bai Li Pangpang standing on the ground. The crimson light pillar fell like a sword of judgment from the thunder clouds. At that moment, Bai Li Pangpang, holding the Thunder Beast's tail, yanked it hard. The Thunder Beast's body immediately lost its balance, its mouth slightly misaligned, and the erupting crimson light pillar also redirected its target, heading straight for the soldier disaster beside it. The soldier disaster's pupils constricted sharply. Boom! The crimson lightning pillar instantly engulfed the soldier disaster's figure. On the other side, the insect disaster looked at the searing fire lines surrounding her, her expression extremely grim. Not far in front of her, the red-robed Oracle envoy stood between flames and lava, extreme heat enveloping his body. He resembled a blazing sun in the night, radiating endless light and heat. The light ring in his left eye had vanished, replaced by a swirling static of television snow. Jiang Air was controlling his body through the transformation system within the fire disaster. Although his movements were somewhat awkward and his combat power was not on par with the fire disaster when alive, it was sufficient to handle the current situation. Her task was not to control the fire disaster, to confront the insect disaster directly. In the fire scene, Shen Qingzhu donned the flowing cloud feather coat, leisurely pulling out a cigarette from his pocket and lighting it in the hovering fire lines nearby. He placed the cigarette in his mouth, raised his right hand and gently snapped his fingers. Snap. The air around the fire disaster was rapidly compressed. The fire lines and fireballs surrounding the air quickly converged towards his right palm under Shen Qingzhu's control, compressing until moments later they coalesced into a massive, blazing fireball with a radius of 100 meters. The energy contained in the flames released by the fire disaster was astronomical, and this astronomical heat was further compressed and gathered in his palm by Shen Qingzhu through Qi Min. Once that 100-meter radius fireball exploded, its power would rival a nuclear explosion, capable of annihilating all of Tokyo.